As women, I feel like that's kind of like who we are and what we do, right?
Exactly.
I agree.
Change just to change isn't healthy either.
Now what do we do, right? It's not a negative thing. This is how we live life with other humans.
Yes.
Like it's
My
fair.
whole mindset shifted with that one accident.
We're talking about pivot today. Anybody gone through some pivots lately? Anybody? Pivots? Yeah.
When you say pivot, that's not normal. Like, is this like everyday life?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So then the answer is yes.
Yes.
We're all
I feel like we do that on the daily, and it just now has become norm, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know what's really funny? Like, I feel like I was using that word before the pandemic, but like the pandemic made it like
Pivot,
the
like a
word.
thing.
Like,
yes.
pivot. And I'm like, I've always been like really agile in life and had to pivot and move through because, I mean, as women, I feel like that's kind of like who we are and what we do, right?
Exactly.
Agree? Yeah. Okay. So share a little bit about like, do you have a pivot story or like anything that's happened to you where you're like, oh my gosh, here we are.
Well, I think as Erika's saying, it's like every day is a day to pivot. It's a day for change. And I just think of it as energy shifting.
Yes.
So it's not this big lift.
Yeah.
But don't shift your energy. You don't attract new.
Exactly.
Because you're on that same frequency.
Mhm.
So your pivots, and this, everyone uses the phrase, there's power in the pivot.
Yeah.
And it almost loses its power because we use it so much. Think of it as there's energy in the pivot.
Yes.
Use it fellowship in the pivot.
Yeah.
There's a magnet in the pivot.
Yeah.
So I really do try to pivot every day.
We try to pivot every day.
Yeah.
You know what's really funny? Because we feel like pivot could be like that word could be like a negative thing. It's a heavy thing. But I love how you just said that. Like there's energy, like good energy. We need to be
Attraction in the pivot.
attraction in the pivot.
Yeah. And I think it's like the negative connotation of like, oh, well, this didn't go as planned. So we have to pivot now. Except that everything that we do in life is well, we plan to the best of our ability with what we have available in our knowledge, right? And then everything that we do involves humans, which I'm sure you ladies know are about the most unpredictable creatures that we have, right?
That's right.
So we can have our best laid plans and we have to know like we're going to pivot along the way because we have a set of thoughts and then we implement something and then there's this other human involved or humans and then we go, oh, we didn't think about that. All right, now we need to shift the energy, right? And go, okay, now what do we do?
Yeah.
Right? It's not a negative thing. This is how we live life with other humans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Has there been like one thing, maybe each of you or any of you, like, has there been one thing where you're like, that pivot was like the pivot and I wouldn't be here today if I didn't, even though like maybe I didn't want it, I didn't foresee it, I didn't like it, but like it brought me to where I am today. Any type of life altering situation that maybe happened?
Yeah. And a lot of people look at it as a negative, right? So I was just talking about being an athlete, but after my athletic life that I thought I was going to have, I went into regular work and I had a slip and fall accident where I ended up becoming paralyzed on one side of my head, right?
Oh, wow.
And so like at this point, I'm like, what do I do next? I've always known to have movement. Movement has always been my thing. And now I have no movement. But the idea of not having movement for several months and learn how to walk again actually made me this endurance person that I am today. Like,
And you talk a lot about endurance. I love that.
about endurance. I talk about it like shifting. I'm actually a marathon runner. I wasn't walking at one point and now I'm running marathons. So if I never had that mindset of stillness, I would never appreciate movement and endurance the way I do today. So I think that was the pivot that like changed the whole perspective for me, because it was like, okay, this is now my new look on life. So I tell people it was more so not a pivot in who I was as a person, but it was a pivot in mindset.
Yes. And you can't fight it.
Yeah.
Like it's
my
fair.
whole mindset shifted with that one accident.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and if I never had that shift or that pivot of that perspective, I would never, like the business that I run, none of this of who I am as Crystal Hadnott today would not exist. That never happened.
And we just found out you were an Olympian athlete. We're still like,
that was exciting.
what?
I know. I'm like,
We know you were the business girl. Like, we were like, wait, what? Okay, so like this is so interesting because I think sometimes people get stuck in this. Like life is happening, life is lifing. I don't like it. I don't want it, whether it's relationships or work or whatever it is. But like the power is in the pivot, right? The energy of the movement. And while we're pivoting every day, there are some like really prolific things that happen.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to embrace them. Like, how do you, because you're the one that said embrace it, right? You said the energy. Like, I'm coming right back to you. Like, what, how?
I think it's different for every person. You have to be really tapped into your inner self.
Yes.
And led by spirit. Because I also
love you're saying that.
I love the fact that we're talking about pivot, but there's also power in staying the course.
Yes.
Change just to change isn't healthy either. So whatever people need to do to get centered every single day and be led and guided on that particular day, I think that's understated. We just hop up in the morning, right? And I'm just going at it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't take 10 minutes to ground yourself, you could be pivoting and creating lifing moments that you aren't even for you.
That's right. Exactly. Just, I love it. Yeah. You're like, was that today? No.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that is a balance of pivot with stay the course.
Yeah.
And you have to find that for yourself.
Well, and it's like living life, the difference between living by default versus living with intention, right?
Yeah.
So like when we're changing for what purpose, right? There has to be intentionality in what we're doing, pivoting versus, and then, which I'm sure this is not going to be foreign to any of you ladies of hearing, well, so what we're doing this, why are we doing that? Well, I don't know. We've always done it this way. Oh my gosh.
No.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, cool, but like what purpose is it serving?
Yeah.
Right. And if it's not serving a purpose anymore, then self-assessment. Why are we spending so much time, energy, a lot of times money into something that we're not, it doesn't serve our purpose? Well, because I don't like the change. So the idea of the change terrifies people more than staying.
I know why do we do that? And I'm not gonna say become men, but like I become women do this, right?
May not be for us. Like it's
we're willing to deal with
reality, and we don't like to do the self-assessment.
And
I tell people, I actually do this all the time. I was like self-assessment because sometimes what we're fueling ourselves with may not be what's healthy for us.
That's right.
And a good example, I was like, of course, I'm gonna use a health analogy, but like people, places, and things, just like food, have the ability to be toxins or nutrients. So that's right.
Yeah.
And so if you sit down and you assess, things that were good for your body in your 20s may not be good for your body in your 40s.
Yep.
So just because it was a healthy food in your 20s doesn't necessarily mean it's a healthy food for your body of who you are in 40s.
That's right. Yeah.
So you have to really self-assess. We were just talking about your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She has to feed her body at 17 as an athlete, very different than how we feed our bodies. Right?
That's right.
So like, what's good for her and her intake may not be necessarily what's good for us in our intake. Right. So a lot of times it's about assessing, like, is this something that's still nourishing for me? Mm-hmm. Or is this something that I necessarily don't need?
And this is in every aspect of life. We should talk about food right now, but this is like people.
That's right.
Places and things.
Oh, this is all 100%. Yes. All of those things. All of those things.
Nutrients and toxins. Like, really have to
what a great
animals
like walking into that.
Animals do it all the time.
Yeah.
They're the only mammals that still take in milk after a certain age. Right?
Yeah.
So because animals have identified, like, I no longer need this nutrient. Not that it's not healthy for them anymore. It's just that my body doesn't need this nutrient anymore. I can now feed off of something else. So what are we looking at as our nutrients and what are we feeding off of? Is it something that the 5-year-old version of you needed?
Right.
Or is it something that your 20-year-old version needed? Or is it something that you need in the moment?
That's right.
So really,
I love that.
That's the excuse why I don't drink milk.
See, that's why I was like, yes, okay, yeah. I felt that. I didn't need that. I don't need that.
That's right. I'm like, out of there.
That's hilarious.
What Erika said too, because there's a tendency also to look around and see other people pivoting.
That's right.
People make changes, but then you feel like you need to get into that.
That's right.
Flow. But again, it's about being intentional, knowing what's for you, and knowing that your timing may be different.
Because
the job doesn't mean it's your pivot.
That's right.
And I'm glad
not default.
You're talking about like setting your day up with intentionality. And this is one of the practices that I've used. I feel like whenever I am out of alignment And I'm just sort of like grasping at all the things, and you can feel it. When you have a morning practice or you have like an intentional, a grounding moment or whatever, you're able to deal with life. You're able to know what's really your pivot and what's not your pivot. You're able to like kind of like ground yourself in like whatever the day brings, I'm open to, right? Or however you enter into your day. And I love that you said that. I love that, like the intentionality we're talking about, right? The theme here in this talk is pivot and change. And yes, change is inevitable. It's not always our change. So recognizing those things, but if we don't have it, like have ourselves firmly rooted, how will we know, right? So talk a little bit about what your mornings look like or what your grounding looks like.
Yeah.
And maybe let's talk about everybody.
I have morning time to myself. Not a whole lot of time, maybe 15, 20 minutes. I light a candle.
Okay.
I walk my house. I do a lot of great thinking through movement. And so I walk a pathway around my house and I just get centered and focused that way with my candle.
I love it.
Mine's also movement. In the morning, I get up before the phone starts ringing, the emails start blowing up. Very high intensity workouts I do. And I just zone out. Because that's the only way I can get clarity. Like I can drown out the noise for anything else. And so then I'm able to clearly think. Of course, I'm still half asleep. So my body's like doesn't know what's happening. And so, but that's my time, and my brain, like there's so many things that, like listening to my Peloton instructor, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm thinking about these things in the morning so that I can, my brain is already going now.
Yeah.
And so by the time I'm done taking a shower, have my, breakfast, load up on protein, like I'm kind of ready to go at that moment,
and
right?
you can attack the day.
Right. Exactly.
Whatever comes your way.
I feel a lot more equipped to handle the fires that inevitably will come, that we have to constantly pivot on a number of occasions throughout the day, because I'm kind of amped up.
You're like,
I'm like, let's go.
Everybody's different. Probably me and you are a little bit like, and we're ready. Let's go.
Oh yeah.
Let's flow through the day. You're like, let's go.
Yeah. I thought this is probably like a combination. Right? So I firmly believe in giving myself the first 90 minutes of the day and the last 90 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Only because my day requires of me to give of myself to everyone else for the rest of the day. So I think it's so important for me to give to myself before I give out to the world, but also come back to myself before I go.
For sure.
And so I do the same thing. I walk around my house, but I'm really big on grounding work. So I run. I'm a runner. So I go out and I go for my run. But in the middle of my run, I always take off my shoes and socks and kind of like ground myself in stillness, because I know a lot starts flushing through movement and a lot of stuff start coming in. But then that's when I self-assess, like when I put my feet on the ground and I'm like assessing all the information that's coming to me in that moment. And then I process it on my way back home. And then I'm ready to give to other people, because my mom used to always say, you can't pour out of your cup unless you pour back into your cup.
That's right.
And so I try to do that as a method of like me pouring into myself first. And now I can give out to the world. So that's kind of my morning. It's just like really also assessing the information, like how is my body feeling? What is my, what state of mind am I in? Because I have to give to other people in the right state of mind. This is not the day that I need to give so much into people. I need to regulate myself first before I do that. And so I just really just do a whole like mental, physical, emotional, spiritual assessment of where I am, so I can place myself in a better position to deal with others.
I love that.
Is your evening 90 minutes one of solitude as well?
Yeah,
it is.
Yes, I have to.
No, we're like, wait, what are we doing?
Well, and
I'm like, taking notes.
And I tell people that's only because I have a teenager at my house now. Like, so, so that's different too. So
it has to change.
My home environment is also different and set up differently now. So it was not 90 minutes before. Okay. But I also believe in the equal time morning to the equal time in the evening, whether that's 15, whether that's 30, whether that's...
Love this.
But I just think it's important because I have given so much of myself to come back to self at the end of the day.
I love this equal parts, right? Because I tend to, me and maybe others, like, we're like, okay, we're doing this in the morning, so we're ready to go. But like how we're winding down, is also so important.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we started off talking about pivot, right? And we know pivot change is inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love and how I love that the direction of this conversation really went is like, it's inevitable. We can't escape it. We've got to get comfortable with it. But how you approach your day and your life and the circumstances really matter with how you could go through it. And for everyone who's listening or watching, I mean, you kind of heard how we all do it differently. I guess there's really the other thing that we learn here is there's like no one way to set up your day or to prepare yourself, but just try to find those like moments. Ladies, thank you so much for being a part of Shop Talk.
Yes, thank you for having us.
It's like every day is a day to pivot. It's a day for change. And I just think of it as energy shifting.
So I tell people it was more so not a pivot in who I was as a person, but it was a pivot in mindset.